Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Forging Friends. I'm here with my friend John Kuiphoff. And John, why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So my name is John, and where do I start? So I'm sitting in a one-car garage, and this one-car garage has two glow forges in it, a ShotBot CNC, a Shaper Origin, a 3D printer, a sublimation printer, a big, huge table saw, two band saws, an entire film studio. I got an electronic suite. I got spray booths, and like literally probably like $2,000 worth of acrylic. And so it's crammed in this one little space. So I think when you start this like journey into being a maker, it's a little bit of a sickness. Like you think you're just gonna buy a glowforge or you're just gonna buy a Cricut, which I also have. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, then but this thing can do this thing, and then this thing can do this thing. So for example, in my Glowforge for Beginners class, we had a session on sublimation printing, something I didn't know a whole lot about. Now, like I'm all in. So I made like these, I made this little key ring with my kid's head on it. And like I finally got something you can cut on the Glowforge and print with. So mixing those mediums together. So yeah, so introducing myself, I like to say that I make things with computers and glue. I'm a problem solver. I like working on creative projects. I work with a lot of different clients. I also teach as a college professor as my day job. I was teaching as I was a computer programmer for like 12 years, and I was just like program, like my fingers be like machine gun, like sparks coming out of the keyboard. And then I got burnt out. So one of the things I did is I took all the money I got from one of the freelance gigs, and I bought a bunch of woodworking equipment. And I fell in love and I never looked back. And so that was 7 years ago. So in 7 years, I haven't ever made a web app since then. So I'm totally like, I'm just doing this stuff and I could be happier. So I still teach at the college. I started a big makerspace there because they didn't have one. And I wanted to teach this sort of stuff instead of computer programming. So the only way to do that was to build a makerspace. And now I teach digital fabrication, product design, and then like probably like 5 or 6 other classes that are somewhat related. So, but right now, I run a small business and I experiment with a lot of different formats. Yeah, just I love this stuff.
Yeah, I think anyone that follows you can see that you're kind of always switching it up and always just doing like more kind of interesting and like innovative things. Like the sublimation on, was that acrylic or was that wood?
This one is some kind of sublimation board, has like sort of like chipboard on the back.
Oh, okay.
So I've been trying like every kind of material. I'm trying wood and different acrylics, and most of them are just failed tests because I don't know what I'm doing yet. But like that's the fun part, is figuring it out.
Trial and error is the best part, I think, of any project personally. Yeah. I mean, and like you had the Glowforge since the Kickstarter, right? Mm-hmm. And I used the Glowforge since the Kickstarter. And so I think it's kind of cool because very early on in that beginning, it was all trial and error.
It was.
People are so spoiled now that buy the Glowforge and it's like, oh, this setting, like I'm good to go.
And also, I don't know if you had to wait. So it was 2.5 year wait for
the
campaign. And you waited 2.5 years. So when it finally came, it was like, it's here. Like, and so like you were much hungrier for it because for a while I didn't think it was coming.
Yeah, I know. I kind of thought for a while it was going to be like other Kickstarters where you're just never going to see that money again.
But I would actually, I would hike all the way up to like Queens, New York at the maker fairs, and I'd see the machine. I'm like, okay,
like it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, it's here. It's coming.
Yeah.
Any minute now.
Yeah, at the Maker Faire in San Francisco, I always saw their booth always packed.
Yep.
Like it was just like the newest toy on the block. But yeah, so it's so funny when I see people complaining on like different Facebook groups about things on the Glowforge, and I'm like, you guys, we have it good now.
But in their defense, like you don't realize, like, so they were, I think in their campaign, they were trying to get $100,000. And they got something more like 28 million. It was like 27 point something. Like that's a huge amount of money. And and so like they had to deliver on that promise. And so I think they've done pretty well. I read yesterday they just raised an additional $43 million.
Oh wow, that's insane.
Yeah. So I don't know what the plans are, but maybe it's I dream that they're going to come out with like a UV printer, although I haven't heard anything along those lines.
That would be amazing. I'd be down.
Because they have they could use the same shell, like almost the same software. They would have to replace the print head with like a large print head. And because the story of Glowforge, as far as I understand it, was Dan Shapiro, the CEO of Glowforge. He had one of those really big, large lasers, like in his garage or something like that. And I listened to an earlier podcast with him on it, and he's looking at this machine at like 20 or 30 grand. He's like, we could build this for a home consumer for much less. And so my campaign, during the campaign, I remember paying $2,000 for the Glowforge.
Yeah.
If they could do the same thing for like UV printing, because a UV printer right now for a bed size about the size of the Glowforge from like Roland runs between $20,000 and $30,000.
Oh yeah, it's so inaccessible.
Yeah, but imagine, so I'm doing sublimation printing, but UV printing is so much cooler because you can print directly on any substrate. You can print on glass, on wood, on acrylic, and it's not like it's a different process. So you can print on so much more with a UV printer. So I don't think that's what they're doing with $43 million, but I can dream.
That would be awesome. I hope they would actually do something like that eventually in the line, because I think that would just level up all their customers already. Because like most people who have the Glowforge, they have some kind of small business or like side hustle, and because you can make quite a bit of awesome stuff on the Glowforge, even though it's a relatively smaller bed size than most lasers. But if you did that plus the UV printer, man, people's games would be like super elevated.
And I think I discovered UV printing. A friend of mine, he had asked if I could laser, like, let me back way up. Grand Central Terminal Station, New York City, we're doing a rebranding project. Nice. Everything was UV printed, but they needed all of their UV printed stuff laser cut on top of that. So that was my first entrance into that. And that was helpful because a little later, like fast forward like a year or two, SJC Custom Drums was a client of mine, and they're awesome. I love working with them. But they had commissioned me to do a number of custom drum badges with them. And so we did Slipknot's entire line. That was just like regular wood, which is really fun.
I think that's legit.
Yeah, that was and I actually have a story with that one. There was a story. So I originally printed that on proof grade material. And when we applied it to the drum, it was bent. It was split because like that veneer on the MDF, like it's not meant to bend. Like that's not its strength. So we had to go to plywood. So like you learn something, but you learn something from every job that you do. Like, oh, you really have to know your materials. That was totally my fault, not proof grade's fault or anything like that. But then we did stuff for Imagine Dragons and 21 Pilots, and that was UV printed and either laser or CNC, and like the combination of UV printing and other technologies is fascinating. Yeah.
Did you meet Imagine Dragons?
No, but I've been talking to Panic at the Disco on Instagram, so doing some research for them right now, and that's not a Glowforge thing. That's a weird CNC, like nearly impossible. We're trying to figure it out. So,
right. Well, I'm going to need you to introduce us.
Okay. Yeah, we've done so many different bands. But here's a funny thing: like after working with SJC Custom Drums, and they're so good to work with. But eventually they realized, like, you know what, it'd be easier if we had a Glowforge here. So they bought a Glowforge, and now they have their own. So they hired me only when something's really hard to do. Like, take a look at this. Yeah. But I'm very grateful for working with them because they opened me up to a whole bunch of different materials and had to problem solve all this really difficult issues we had to work through some of those projects. So for me, like freelance, that's why I love freelance so much. Like most of the shop is built from freelance work because it's just a problem solving exercise and experimentation. So oftentimes in a freelance project, I actually like break even or sometimes even lose money, but I just chalk it up to like, well, that's my education. Like now I know how to do this thing and I've acquired this tool and I have a story to tell. So
yeah, I think like I'll always say yes to a freelance project, even if I don't know how to do it. Now, granted, unless it's something like crazy, because I know I can like figure it out. Like I got commissioned to make a 4-foot by 8-foot light bright.
Oh, wow.
And so I obviously said like yes immediately because I'm like, that sounds awesome. I had no idea at all how to do it. And like I tried to look up on YouTube some stuff and there was like a couple of videos, but it was just that someone had made one and installed it, like no info, no nothing. And I was like, well, I'm gonna wing it. And then so I filmed the process and I put it up on YouTube, and it's kind of cool because a couple people have like contacted me and be like, oh my gosh, like I made one too, and it's super awesome. But I made some money on it. I didn't make like a crazy amount. Luckily I didn't lose money on it, but the acrylic pegs were so expensive. So for anyone out there that ever wants to make it, it's expensive.
They have a large scale one at the Children's Museum I've done work for, and now I take my kid to it. But yeah, they're really fun. They're really, really fun.
Yeah, so much fun. It's ridiculous. But
So,
that's why I think freelance is so awesome, because you just get all these ridiculous opportunities.
but you don't hear, and at least in our laser communities, you don't like most people are Etsy people, I think, just
Yeah.
in general. Like you buy a laser, you're going to sell stuff on Etsy.
Yep. You're gonna make
Not a
some
lot of people are
money.
like, I'm going to buy a laser and I'm going to stress myself out by having to do custom orders for really strange clients, because you get some really strange requests, and sometimes it's like really boring stuff, like parts for. I work for a product design firm part time, and like they look like just abstract shapes. They're like machine parts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always like these really, really interesting problems that you have to solve.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's chipboard has to go in just this way and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I think it's kind of interesting too, just with the freelance, because like I said, I do anything from like the 4 foot by 8 foot light bright, and then to where I have sewists who are asking me to make like acrylic templates so that they don't have to use a paper template for the same bag that they have to make 100 of or whatever.
So how do you find the freelance? I always ask me that same question, and I never have a good answer. How do you find freelance?
For me, all of my freelance have been from a friend of a friend, all of them.
Okay.
So I haven't really like ever been like, hey, I'm open for freelance, blah, 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 which I probably should, because then I'd probably get more freelance opportunities. But that's how it's been. It's either been like word of mouth, or it's like a friend of a friend of a friend.
Okay.
Or I got a lot of my bigger freelance projects from my sister's work for a while, because they were putting on like these massive youth events for the Salvation Army.
Right.
And so that's like where the 4 foot by 8 foot light bright came from. And then I made like the Price is Right wheel, just like kind of crazy like set pieces. And so
For the actual show, or there was for like
no, just for like their little mock version of it.
Okay, cool. That's like, that's crazy. Yeah. I think when I was starting out, so I did the Etsy thing for a little while, and I like the shipping. Like I couldn't do all that. It was before pirate ship and all that. But and then I started saying yes to all freelance. Like anybody can come to me and like, I need something for a wedding, or I need something for this, or I want, can you do one of these? Or, oh, you know what? And I would just say yes, 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 yes. And then that stopped being fun. So the formula that works for me right now is I try to work with like 4 or 5 bigger clients, and people I know how they work and what platforms are they using. Are they using Slack or Trello, or what are their expectations? And they're usually like the more fun clients, like the more creative clients. Yeah. So it's not just like somebody's wedding where it's like it's just it's not fun for anybody. So like that for me is what works, instead of like just working with fewer clients, but being more invested in those companies or those brands, and then doing a little bit of stuff on social media to attract the larger brands. I think like for me, that's been very helpful, because I wouldn't have landed a lot of the projects that I've landed if I didn't post anything. Bless you. Yeah. So I've never, and I work for a local sign company too. And so like, just from you work in your local community, all of a sudden, like you find all kinds of strange relationships. And so,
yeah, that's super awesome though.
Yeah.
So did all of the like bigger clients find you through like Instagram, or how did they like Panic at the Disco, Slipknot?
It's a mix. Yeah. Usually I get just an email from like my website, which no one ever visits. So eventually someone will probably Google you and just look for the contact thing. But yeah, it's usually either through like a YouTube video they saw, or an Instagram post, like, oh, you can do that. Or a friend of a friend, or, and I've been living in the same general location. I live, New Jersey, New York, but like, Philadelphia area. So like, there's just a lot of work. If I lived in like Oklahoma, like, I don't know if I'd have access to the same clients. Like I can be on a train in New York City and meet somebody if I had to, or there's just more here. Yeah. There's just a lot of work around here. And especially since COVID, like everything's remote. So you're on Zoom with a lot of these companies that you have access to that you didn't have access to. Previously.
It's kind of insane. Like I know the pandemic, I think, how do I word it? I think it hurt a lot of people and a lot of businesses, obviously, but I think it's also brought up like so many different unique opportunities for people, especially creators and like YouTubers and stuff, that just I don't think ever would have existed if the pandemic hadn't happened, And so I think that's really cool. Like I've been able to do I've been able to like talk to companies who probably never would have even given me, the time of day. And I think it's just really a result from the pandemic and just changing the way things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And honestly, weirdly enough, Zoom opened up a ton of opportunities, like just so many opportunities. Because I was teaching on Zoom remotely, so I don't have the system set up right now, but I have like multiple cameras and like all the little buttons. I could make this thing like a TV studio. I could make like Zoom like sing, and and just like when you have a meeting with somebody and you just use a little bit of that stuff, like you can really make an impression on people.
yeah.
So.
They think you're a wizard.
They do, like, and it's like, no, it's just another form of literacy. Like, this is just a different way we have to communicate now. And I was on a TV show. Will be TV show will be aired in September. Make 48. It was like one of the coolest thing. Maybe the best weekend I've ever had. Like, it was awesome. Like, you worked really long shifts, and I did the glowforge stuff it was in Kansas City.
Oh wow.
Yeah, or no, not Kansas City, Wichita, Kansas.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I sat in front of this glowforge for literally 18 hours straight. Yeah, and we work with all these teams. But anyways, the reason I got on the show was Zoom. I met somebody on Zoom named Ethan Carter, and then I had a talk with their producers on Zoom, and I was just like doing my normal thing, like, how do you doing all that? And so like, it's like you're accessible, like, a Zoom call, and all of a sudden I'm in Wichita, Kansas, out of all places. Like,
That's
there's a
crazy.
film crew. Like, it's just like, and like the class I teach only exists because we have Zoom now. Like, if I had tried to do this course 3 years ago, people just wouldn't know how to they just wouldn't know how to communicate in that way.
Yeah.
So now we're talking. It's right before this call. We're talking to people from literally all over the world. Like it was 11 o'clock here, and then it was like 8 a.m. like in California, and then in some other country, I don't even know country, it was 5 p.m.
Oh my
So you
god.
have all these people just talking about lasers and crafting, and people from all walks of life on Zoom, and they know like how to mute themselves when the dog starts barking. And it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Zoom has really just opened up the laser community, I think in general, especially like because you do the weekly Zoom for your course, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about. And so, because when I went on your Zoom, it was kind of crazy to see all the people that showed up, first of all. And then they're all engaged and that they're all like from different places, like you're saying. So it's really cool that you've been able to build this kind of community through Zoom and like the laser and all this stuff. And then with your course. And so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about your beginner course too.
Sure. So you were a guest a couple weeks ago, and on this morning's Zoom, one of the students in the course, feels weird calling them students, for lack of a better term, Donna, she's seen your Etsy. She's launching her store tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks to you. Yeah. So the course is glowforgeforbeginners.com. And I decided I was just going to make a class. I was going to make the class that I wish I had when I first owned my Glowforge. Because like you said, there weren't a whole lot of resources available.
Yeah.
You sort of had to figure it all out for yourself. And so the course, it's not even finished yet. It'll be like finished enough where I can like charge like a normal price by the end of the summer, I think. It's gonna have like 40 pre-recorded videos that are, pretty high quality. But then we do a weekly Zoom, and that's a lot of community building, and we bring in special guests. We brought you and Alyssa on that one day, and we bring in special guests at least once a month. And there's like a private Facebook group, and I do a lot of one-on-ones with people. So if you sign up for the class, and I'm going to meet with somebody a little bit later today. They want to clean their Glowforge, but they'd rather me just be in the background in case it explodes instantly. So, which it won't, but like you're right. So what I like about the class structure versus like the social media structure is the class structure, the mission's a lot different. Like you're just helping someone along on their journey to get from point A to point B. And so you work with a much smaller group of people and with a shared mission and a shared goals. And that's different than like if you put something on YouTube where you have like a sponsor or something, or like, right. It's like it feels different. Like if you're in a class, you're not trying to impress me. But I didn't record today's session, but for an hour and a half, we all just traded tips and techniques and talked about this and talked about that and asked questions, and you feel good. Yeah. So but there's no comments. There are no likes. Well, there's comments, but there's not
Yeah.
like great job. Like it doesn't matter on a course. Like it's not about you. It's actually
Mhm.
about them. And I think that's the biggest difference. Is that if you're
Yeah.
doing like YouTube or Instagram, a lot of times it's about you. Like, oh,
Yeah.
look at me, I'm fancy. I made a keychain with my kid's head on it. But if it's about a course, it has nothing to do with you, and you're just like you're helping somebody else, and
Yeah.
that always just feels better to be in service to other people
Yeah.
versus like just
Very
constantly saying
rewarding.
how cool I am. Like, hey, like yesterday I posted like, cool. I just spent a lot of money on a brand new tool that I don't know how to get out of my van. It's like almost 800 pounds. Like that's cool, but honestly, it feels much better to help know that somebody's Etsy channel is starting because you help that person along. Like, and like that
Yeah.
just
So that's
feels,
so exciting. It's
yeah,
very rewarding too.
it's very rewarding and much more rewarding. And I've learned so much in that process because of all the questions you get. Like the biggest question that happened today was like, we're trying to research safe paints and finishes that we can use on toys for kids. And so
Yeah.
like, there's like certain certifications, like had I not been challenged or had I even had a YouTube channel where I was making stuff like around my house, like I never would have had to do that stuff. So I like the course format. Like it's a really nice format, but you still need the YouTube stuff to drive traffic to the course. So
Yeah.
right now I'm working on a YouTube video. I think it's going to do well. I'm pretty sure it's going to do well. I know it's going to do well. Yeah, it has all the ingredients that I
There
need,
you
and
go.
there's enough time and energy into it where I think it'll be like another huge draw. And
Oh, that's
so I'm
awesome.
saving YouTube for the fun experimental stuff and the
Mhm.
class for the more valuable stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Like that's one of the reasons too why I started YouTube was I wanted to like help educate people on how to do different things. Obviously with the course it's way more easy to like actually teach people. And like I want to get to that point someday. But that was kind of why like I started with making videos. And especially I've kind of been focusing on doing the glowforge because it's so popular and I've seen so many people like starting fires in the glowforge or just not
Mhm.
using it safely. And I'm like, yo, hold up, like let's make some glowforge content to kind of help people not.
Yeah, there's a lot
But
to it.
and like I think one of the things with the glowforge too is it's amazing, right? It's very accessible to consumers, right? To like every like everyday Joe, right? And but I've seen a lot of people too, they're trying to, make these businesses work, but they're all selling like the same
The
exact
same
product.
thing. The same thing.
So like they all have the same ornament, right?
Yeah.
And then so what I was trying to do is switch my kind of goals for educating people on the glowforge is to how to teach them how to design for the glowforge as well. Because you're gonna make so much more money selling products that you design that don't have 500 people also selling the same exact Christmas ornament as you. And so, and that's, I think, one of the things that I was really inspired when I found your course. I was looking at it was that, you're teaching these people valuable information and it like inspired me to want to start doing that and dive deeper into like the course kind of teaching thing. And so I think that's really cool that you're doing all these really cool teachable moments and stuff.
It's yeah. I think it's a start. So like you brought up something really important, and I see this at the college level too. Most people aren't very creative. They have
Yeah.
potential, but they're just not.
Hmm.
Like a lot of people just like taking orders and doing what's expected, and I don't think it's that they're not creative. They don't know how to be creative because like in school, like
Yeah.
you're all sort of doing the same thing,
Yeah.
like
They don't know
right.
how to unlock it.
Like, so how do you teach someone to be creative or to work through a process or how to come up with the killer idea and know when to stop and know when to keep searching? Like a lot of people just don't know that process. Like how do you make something that's creative or a process that's creative? Because like even like if I show my mom something like, oh mom, like like if I show her this, she's like, oh, I could make those, instead of thinking, and her or many other people, like instead of thinking, like breaking it down into smaller bits, like, okay, so we can print on something that's cut, let's break it down to its most basic level.
Yeah.
Using those two principles, what can we do from there? Most people don't think like that. Most people, like you said, are like, see this, oh, we can make those, how much can they
Yeah.
sell for? And then like that's it, because that's how we were taught to think, I think, for
Yeah.
the majority of our lives. But if you can teach someone how to break down a process or break down what are the most basic elements and how do you build that back up to build something different or that's tailored for some other reason, like how do you really remix something? So I just see sublimation printing and the glowforge as two separate processes, Keychains is not the answer, but it's a way to scaffold that knowledge and give yourself enough success to motivate yourself to do more. And then eventually, like after 6 months, also patience. After 6 months, I'm finally going to understand both processes enough to come up with something that's like just awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like I think you hit on the head where people just stop there, right? Like, oh, I can do that. Because really, you could incorporate that into any Glowforge project that you make, right? You can make like a birth announcement sign, and then you can have a little piece of the sublimation of the child's like sonogram or his picture or whatever, and attach it to that. But most people just stop there, and so they can't even get to that point. If they're like, oh, I can actually combine my wood sign with the acrylic letters plus this sublimation thing, and then now I have like an elevated project.
To give you another example, so the YouTube video is coming out. You buy proof grade material, you have maple, walnut, and cherry. It's basically like vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, right?
Yep.
That's it. But imagine like an ice cream store, you get everything. So so instead of sticking with those, if you want to differentiate yourself, maybe you can make your own plywood. So one of the things I've been doing is taking like veneer and MDF and just like recreating proof grade, but with other veneers. So like this one, I don't even know what this one is, but like I literally have every species of wood, I don't know, that you could ever buy. Like I just bought like $600 worth of veneer.
Oh my god!
I'll have plywood of like literally like this is walnut.
Yeah.
Right, I'll say one more because it gets ridiculous after a while. Like Paduke. So now I have basically a full palette of laserable plywood, and that most people would even stop there. But like, what if you stretched it more? So then I started shopping around for papers all around the world, like exotic papers from all around the world. What if I can put like paper on MDF? So like just like a sparkly paper. Or what about like book cover material? Like what else can you glue to a board to make it laserable?
Right, to make it.
And all of a sudden, like you're just gluing all kinds of stuff to MDF, and you're able to laser any of it. Now you have like texture. So not only you have color, now you have texture. And then and Glowforge's live session, like at the same time they asked me to do a live session, I was then like making little like figurines for my daughter. But it's like basically doing what other people do, but now I have just more a bigger palette. And then so like instead of just stopping there, what if you take it further and you get into like painting? Like take MDF and you paint it like perfectly. But then like that's cool. But what if you take it one step further and you start making like patterned MDF and painting that, and like you have a whole other thing. And instead of that, like then you're going on to sublimation. So basically I'm gonna make a video about making your own laserable material, but it started with just experimenting with veneers on MDF. Yeah. But like how can you get like ridiculous about it and just keep trying things and trying things and trying things and trying things to the point where it's like you're exhausted every possibility. And now like you put all that together and maybe there's just 3 or 4 things that are actually really valuable out of that. And that's like something that's created. Now people take that and actually do something with it. Like I wish I had a course about that. Like how do you going through that process? So that's what I'm gonna do.
No, I think that's really awesome. And like you can basically leave like no stone unturned, like
I've exhausted all the possibilities. Yeah. And until someone else says, have you ever tried this? Yeah. I've tried every glue because and then like you can even put like acrylic and then as the middle layer and then wood on it. So you can cut wood, but actually has like a colored edge instead of the black.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like something like that.
Yeah.
But then you can't use wood glue. So you have to try like 400 different kinds of glue and making sure they're safe to use. And contact cement, oddly enough, works the best out of all of them. For that application, even though it's not as strong a glue. And like, so anyways, then you have a whole thing of glue. So I tried like $600 worth of glue for every substrate. So like, it's just a rabbit hole that keeps on going. So you have to figure out when to like, okay, I've learned enough to at least publish it.
So basically you're like the Bill Nye of the Glowforge world.
Oh God, that sounds terrible. But in some ways, like I love the pursuit. It's like how far can we take it? How far can we take it? Like I'm much more interested in the process than the actual product, which is probably a flaw.
That might be a little backwards, maybe.
Yeah.
You should film your next Glowforge video in a Bill Nye style, just to see.
I haven't seen Bill Nye in a very long time.
I think I've only seen it like.
I'd want to do like a Mr. Rogers style, like a hyped up Mr. I mean, Chris Farley and Mr. Rogers kind of combined. That'd be my style.
Shoes.
Exactly.
All that fun stuff. So. Not to get off topic. Let's get back into it. But So yeah, your course is doing really good. And so what is the price point for your course right now?
Right now, it's $72.
Dude,
Everyone tells
that's
me that's
too
way too
cheap.
cheap.
Too cheap.
I
You
know I'm
guys
not making
need to
any
come
money on
on.
it. Everything I make on it goes into special guests and materials.
Okay.
At some point, I got to make something on it. But
Yeah,
it's when
definitely.
it's done, I will raise the price because everyone keeps yelling at me that I'm undercutting everybody, and I just felt bad for making them pay $72. And here's the thing with the course. So I started charging way too early. But I'm like, let me just charge to get a little bit of feedback, blah, 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 blah. I didn't think, and there's not a lot of people, there's only like 100 people in the class, something like that. But how do I explain this? It takes a long time to make a video, at least to like the way I want to do it. So I felt guilty that the videos weren't getting finished quickly enough. So what I started doing is the live sessions. I'm like, all right, at least maybe I'll do live sessions and I'll do unlimited free one-on-one sessions. And I'll do a Facebook group, all because I felt bad that the videos weren't getting done quickly enough. Well, that opened up a lot of people to really enjoy the lives and the one-on-ones, which made the video production go way slower. Now it's like a snail's pace. Like it takes forever to get a video done because so much time is allotted to all the other things. But in the process, I've learned so much more, and I think the course is richer. So I don't know if there's advice, but like sometimes it's like diving into it. Like somehow it'll all kind of work out, and I'm learning very quickly what's worth doing and what's like just not worth doing. And there's certain things that are worth doing that not financially worth doing, but for other reasons are. Like the one-on-ones financially, that's a huge time sink to really spend an hour with multiple people a week that you don't charge for. But in return, it's great market research because you really understand where people are coming out and maybe like what content's supposed to be in those videos. Whereas like a lot of the earlier videos I made for the class, I have to redo them because I'm not speaking the language that I need to speak in order to reach the people I need to reach. So I think there's a lot of value just like getting in there and just like letting the process work itself out. So if the videos take another 4 months, so be it. Like no one's complaining, but I feel like panicked at night. I'm like, the videos aren't done. There's so many videos I have to do, and they take forever.
Just stressing yourself out over there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely put a link in the description for your course so people can check it out. But so in your course, are you going to talk about or show people how to make probably, what was it, like 100-foot dinosaur bone structure?
Oh, I am doing a pass-through video in like 2 weeks. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, I think I got it on my phone. I don't have the fancy switcheroo. Let me see if I can, so they know what you're talking about.
Yes, because that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was a really fun project. All right, I'm gonna see if I can play it. so that's this is my driveway. Actually, good. You'll see my shop. It's just a one-car garage.
Are you wearing a dinosaur mask as well?
Yes, you have to. Yeah, that was just to make my neighbors think I'm weirder than I even am. Yeah.
Well, I think maybe the dinosaur bone structure might have already got the message across.
There's enough smells and noises coming from this structure to make the neighbors very curious. Yep. So it was just a huge dinosaur skeleton. We also made like big footprints and all kinds of other things dinosaur related. So that was a really fun project.
Do you know?
It was a pass through and it worked out great. Yeah, it was. It took way less time to cut than one might have thought, but we still used like $300 worth of plywood.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I feel like with the pass-through slot, about 80% of the time, for me, it works flawlessly. And then it's always just like those couple random times. And it's typically when I'm in a time crunch. It's like the machine can smell fear, kind of, where it like literally the last little bit like won't come out.
I figured out a trick. And I had to test it before I'd say this publicly. But I know why it fails. I'm pretty sure. So there's two reasons it fails. Either and underneath the head where there's a camera. That's dirty, and so it can't line up appropriately. But the other reason, if you have a simpler shape, especially at the end of print where you're connecting two lines probably at that point, it's too simple. The camera can't figure out. So I think if you actually use like chalk or something and you mark up the board so it actually has a pattern or something to look at.
Texture.
Yeah, just give it like so. For instance, the Shaper Origin uses these domino stickers to know where things fits. Imagine you had something like that on the plywood. So like it would have more information to grab onto. So it'd be less of a chance that it's going to fail. Because I've learned that, hold on, I'll show you what I had to do. And it failed a bunch of times. Hold on 1 second.
All right.
And in the IKEA hacks video we're doing, This is one of the doors.
Oh, okay.
It's very long.
Yeah.
That goes on a cabinet we're making.
Okay.
And there's only, and it failed a few times. Like, this never fails. But the problem is it's just too simple.
Yeah.
So I want to try this again. I mean, it failed once, but it shouldn't have failed.
Right.
But I think if there's more information for it to grab onto, like, I think it just wouldn't fail.
Period. Yeah. Have you ever done the manual align option for the pass-through? I tried to do it the one time because I was like, oh, I really don't want to cut this out again. On screen, it looked perfect, and it was so off. So, yeah.
Yep. No. If I have to do anything that's exact alignment, I still always just make my own jigs. Because we do the same thing with the CNC machine. Like, I just took what I know from the CNC and brought it to the laser.
Yeah, I think jigs are a very underutilized thing in the glowforge community.
And they only take a second. Like,
people would have way less problems if they just took 5 minutes to make a little simple jig.
And it's not even something glowforge can fix. It's a wide angle lens. Unless they make the glowforge height higher, you can't almost fix it. Like, it's just a property of a wide angle lens. Like, even the camera I'm using now, we're split this way. But if I put my hands at the edges, my hands get distorted, but you can't see it because we're only. But
well, I can see it at the bottom.
Yeah, like, things will get distorted at the edges. They're fine in the center. The glowforge works the same way. It's the same camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, maybe with all the millions that they just raised, we'll get a deeper glowforge, and you can do cups and stuff.
Yeah, that would be.
That would be awesome.
That would be good. Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping. I think for me, what I hope they're going to do with that money, even though the UV printer would be awesome, I hope they're going to keep it the same size, but make it taller, and either have it be where the extension part of it to make it taller be separate, so you can use it if you're going to do a cup or just a thicker piece of wood, and then you can take it out and have it be the normal, or just have it be that deeper size always. That's kind of what I'm hoping might come out. However, when it comes out, I probably won't be able to afford it, so who knows?
I really don't know. My dream glowforge, what would I want to see in the glowforge? Of course, a bigger bed size, always nice. I'd want to see a faster pass through. Like, if there was an upgrade to the glowforge, I'd want to see some onboard processing so that the pass through is instant. And I actually have a laundry list of smaller things.
I wish this would be no Wi-Fi dependency.
that would be, even if it was a simpler mode, like maybe there's reduced functionality. One of the other big things too, I'd want the exhaust fans in the back. I'd want 3 ports instead of the one on the side, because if you suck out the exhaust quicker, you're not going to clean your glowforge as much. Like, if they have, that makes the machine bigger. So and then if it's higher, then it's also another bigger machine. But some reason I don't mind the height as much because I don't have room for anything bigger than that. Yeah, for me, the pass through with the glowforge allows me to do something this big. It's not very often, but you can do it. So I don't need that much of a bigger bed. If the pass through is quicker with some onboard computing, if that's possible, if you had a Raspberry Pi inside there or something like that.
That
would be awesome.
That would be cool.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too how many people actually have the Pro laser but don't use the pass-through slot. I don't know if it's either that they're just intimidated by it or they just have no interest. I'm why have that function and not use it?
I didn't use the pass-through probably the first year I had it, just because honestly,
experimental then.
It wasn't. Yeah, but even that, this is the lamest excuse ever, but it's like this. So I have a guitar. If my guitar is in the closet, in its case, I don't play it. But if it's out leaning on my couch, I play it every single day. So with the glowforge, in order to use the pass-through in my setup, I have to turn the glowforge 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And that single interaction of oh, it's heavy.
Yeah, you don't want to do it.
And if I change it, and I have to change how the fan works slightly, and there's probably some stuff on the table I got to move. And it takes maybe almost a minute and a half to do that. But it's just it would take a minute and a half to go in the closet to get the guitar out. I don't do it. So for the first year, I didn't even do it. But then when I had a job I needed to pass through, I was oh, this is not so bad. Oh, this is great. Yeah. So I've used it ever since. Now I almost expect to have to use it on a lot of projects.
Yeah, I had to shimmy mine out from in front of the pegboard. And it's so annoying because I have it setting on a tool chest. And obviously it's full of tools. So I'm struggling.
Exactly. One of the one of the coolest things about pass-through, I was at Make 48 at that TV show I mentioned. I think did I mention TV show Make 48? Yeah. I did. So the first day of the TV show, that there's all the. So let me explain Make 48 for a second. So Make 48 is this competition. It's televised on PBS where there's teams of inventors that in 48 hours have to build a prototype of something. They go through all the IP. We build it at the tool techs. I was a tool tech. The tool techs actually build it. They come up with like the business plans and they pitch it, and there's a winner and they get money, and then they go through the manufacturing process, and all this crazy stuff happens.
That's cool.
Well, the first day the tool techs get there, nobody has their idea yet. So we're just like, we're in this big maker space, like wondering what to do. So we make like the trophies and we make like all the other stuff. And then as soon as the teams have their ideas, then we're like full on build mode. So the first day I was there, we made a big, huge check with the glowforge pass through. And it looked like this, and it worked perfectly the first time. And that was the first time I actually had to engrave with the pass through, and they get lined up perfectly.
Only ever cut with the pass through.
Yeah, that was perfectly. But check this out. Let's see if I can play it quickly enough.
All right, let's see.
So there's feeding it through.
Oh yeah,
you'll see it in a second, hopefully. I just want to show you the one image. So I used the Posca markers. That was cool.
Yep.
Hopefully there's like the reveal at the end. Otherwise, this is all for nothing. But yeah, I made a huge check, and once they signed it, awesome. It looked pretty awesome. Like the fact that we had this big wooden check that you made with the pass through, and it was like some garbage wood that we found in the back. We didn't have time to go to the store. You just had to use what they had on hand.
Yeah,
we had one shot.
Dang.
Yeah, because you can imagine, like it was like what was like a 5-foot check. Like that, how long that takes to engrave and cut. Like
well, and because you have to engrave it this way too.
Yeah,
which
it couldn't mess up.
5 times as long. So
if it messed up, I probably would have just like left the building and went back home and not telling anybody. That was my one job. That would have been mortifying. But no, thankfully it worked out perfectly. First shot.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Well, John, thank you so much. We have been talking for about 40 minutes now. I definitely appreciate you coming on this show. And so I hope you had some fun too. But so anyone watching, if you have any questions about the Glowforge, feel free to reach out to me or to John. John has some amazing information, or if you're new to the Glowforge, you can check out his course. There'll be the link down below. But thank you so much, John, for being here.
And if they sign up to the class, they can see your session inside that class. Yeah, added bonus.
Me being very sleepy because it was 8 a.m. my time.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, but it was an awesome session. So thank you very much. This was fun. This is really fun.
But yeah, cool. All right. So thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
Right.
Bye.
See you later.